Wesley's asked a question here regarding Newcastle, and to be fair, I've been making a point about them understanding their role in the food chain, but he's interested to understand our take on how the top 6 teams are seemingly conspiring to sabotage Newcastle this window. What are your thoughts on that? I think Newcastle just need to understand their role in the food chain. That's what.
No, I think what's happened here, look, fair play to Newcastle. They've gone after a few players they thought they could get, and clearly players that had given their interest to Newcastle. As I've always said, I always use this term food chain in football. They've gone for Ekitike, and then somebody's alerted Liverpool, and they've gone, actually, no, we want him. Sorry, move over Newcastle. We're having him. Same with Trafford. We want Trafford. Yeah, Man City. Now, sorry, we want him. We'll have him. And this is what a lot of the big clubs do, Jords. A lot of the big clubs will wait until somebody puts in a bid and then say, hang on, we wanted that player. He's on our list. Yep. We'll have to expedite our transfer. Chelsea are the best in the world at doing that. Chelsea are the best in the world. They'll wait for everyone else to start making their move, and then they'll go, okay, cool. We'll jump in now. And it is the food chain. They've lost out on João Pedro. They've lost out on Trafford. They've lost out on Ekitike, all to bigger clubs. I don't think it's sabotage. I think that's wide of the mark. But Newcastle, for me now, need to be looking at realistic options. And if they lose out on Sesko to United, then it just shows the food chain. You can have all the money in the world. You can have the richest owners in the world. When the big boys come calling, the big boys come calling. And unfortunately, that's football.
That's just football, and it's not just football. It's the way of life. You know, there's a food chain to everything in life, just like the humans at the top of the food chain. And, you know, people don't complain when you're taking cows and chickens, and you're taking from them. Just like when Man United go take from a Newcastle, they go take from a Wolves, they go take from West Ham. Nobody complains because the big clubs are doing what the big clubs do. They're giving opportunities to smaller players. When Newcastle are now struggling, and I think people fail to understand that Newcastle is a big club. Yeah, I know I joke around and I say things that they're not big, they're tiny, and stuff like that. That's rivalry aside. They're a big club, but in the sense of they're big in Newcastle, they're big in the north. When you take away that factor and you look at the whole of England, you look at the whole of Europe, they're not that big. There's so many clubs that come above them in the pecking order. So when players are looking at moves and players are looking at transfers, the only thing that Newcastle can offer above a lot of these clubs is money. Newcastle can't even offer a different package to that of Man United, Tottenham, and some of the other teams, because although they've got richer owners, their revenue and balances don't. The PSR is an issue. So that's why they couldn't even keep Isak, because Isak wants 300k a week. They didn't offer him the 300k a week. They offered him a new contract once he said, I want to leave. So if you can't compete with what the teams are offering wages-wise, then they're never going to be able to compete at the big table. You need to punch above your weight for a few years.
So, yeah, do you know what? The last sentence you said there, Jords, is absolutely it. To infiltrate that food chain, you need to be right up there for a long time, showing you can do it, which is the chicken and the egg. How do you do that without breaking the food chain? The problem is, like Ellie in the chat said, yeah, well, Chelsea and City, what about them? But the difference is Chelsea and City broke into that at a time where there weren't these rules in football. Chelsea and City spent ridiculously to make that happen. Clubs can't do that now. There are PSR rules in place. There's financial fair play rules in place, right? And everyone's got money now, right? You look at it. Gone are the days where only, like back in the day when Man City, it was Chelsea, wasn't it? When Chelsea first got their money, no one could compete with it. So clubs would go in and go, we want 50 million for this player. Chelsea could go 70 without even thinking about it. Now, look at these clubs. Spurs can bid big for players. Newcastle can, right? Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, like PSG. There are so many that, listen, unfortunately, I'm not saying it's right, but it's the way it is. And it's like that in any walk of life. It's like that in any walk of life. You look at the world of banking, look at all these little challenger banks. Brilliant. They're going to do what they're going to do. They're never going to be the size of HSBC. They're never going to be the size of Barclays. That's the way the cookie crumbles. So you have to get there by brilliant coaching, a bit of luck, and brilliant scouting. That's the way you can try. The way we did under Poch. when we got there and then didn't quite add the layers and it all started to crumble and fall apart. So unfortunately, listen, hats off to Newcastle for trying, but that will be of no consolation to their fan base if this is yet another transfer that they fumble over the line. I reckon, like Drula said, I think they're going to end up with Nicholas Jackson. There you go. I do. I think
if
they'll
they
end
get
up with
Nicholas Jackson, they should be fuming because I know that they're going to end up funding Chelsea for another 60, 70 million. When they're going to go fund the transfer for Xavi Simons, who they wanted early on in the window. I don't know if people saw, but Xavi Simons didn't want to go to Newcastle because Newcastle wasn't a big enough club. So they're going to end up funding Chelsea's deal for a better player for the same fee. And Newcastle fans shouldn't be happy. I don't think it's a case of, Prem's conspiring and all that. I think they should be not happy at their board for poor planning. Definitely don't be happy with the board. You spent 55 million on Lango, he's a good player, but you probably could have got better out there. There's better players available. So you've got to
and they've
make
got
sure
no director of football. They've gone into a transfer window with no director of football.
Yes, that is it.
That. Listen, as I said, I commend them for trying. That doesn't mean I absolve their owners or whoever of full of blame. But for me, I think you've got to somewhat be realistic. I know now if Tottenham went in and put in a bid for Rodrigo, using him as the silly example, I fully expect that within minutes of Arsenal, Liverpool, PSG, somebody being alerted to, have you seen Spurs have had a bid accepted for Rodrigo? Right, okay, get on that fax machine or whatever, however they send their bids these days. Send that pigeon, there you go, bid, boom, done. And unfortunately, what that means is a player like Rodrigo goes, Tottenham, no, hang on, they're nowhere near as good as these clubs. And that's the food chain. Sorry for anyone that doesn't like it, but it is. It is
just the way the cookie crumbles, as Savva says, man. You can't be mad at it. You've just got to accept it. And to be fair, it's funny because I'm sure these are the same fans or same people that won't be mad that Newcastle can outbid the likes of, I don't know, Inter, Juve, and Milan and go take their players. When those are massive clubs, those clubs are way bigger than Newcastle, but Newcastle just have the benefit of playing in the Premier League and being able to offer more money in that sense. So when it's your club, nobody's mad. But when it's when you're at the crux of it and they're taking players from you, it's completely different.
Absolutely. Okay. Look, for example, look what we've just done to Brentford with their manager and coaching staff.
Yeah.
Right? Food chain. Spurs are not as big as City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United. We're not. But we're much bigger than Brentford, right? So we go in for their manager. Their manager goes, oh, hang on, the food chain, right? That's how it works. I see, Ellie, again, you're talking about paying better wages. Sure. But if Spurs and Liverpool both went in for Isak and we offered the same money and the same wages, Alexander Isak is still going to choose Liverpool over Spurs. That's not me putting my club down. That's just bloody